Time to abandon ship.
Oh no!
Here we go!
Can I persuade you to join us for a drink? It's a tradition.
Here, here.
Jar Jar, homie, my main man, quickly. Before the Separatists attack, get into the escape pod.
Hey! This is escape, then we're the pod.
Welcome back to Star Wars Escape Pod, and another great episode that we have today. We've got a spoiler-free Star Wars Outlaws initial review with myself and your co-host tonight, Dan, who is joining us in the Escape Pod for a chat about Star Wars Outlaws, which is making the headlines a little bit recently, you know, in some neutral/negative light, but also there's some positive feedback out there too. So we're going to hit all of these different things without talking too much about the end result of the story and so on and so forth. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Another happy landing.
Kay Vess, the underworld's favorite new scoundrel. This is your one shot. A safe filled with 157 million credits. And I can get you inside.
Get in. How about getting out? This job, it's a death wish.
Your lives are over. Your family, friends, gone. There's nowhere in the galaxy you can hide.
You want to live? Get in with the underworld's most dangerous syndicates. And pull off the greatest heist the Outer Rim has ever seen.
I'm in.
All right, welcome back, Dan. How are you doing?
Hello. I'm doing well. How are you?
Doing good. I mean, you know, it's been a little bit since Star Wars Outlaws came out. We've had about a month and a half, maybe, or about a month, I guess. 1 month now, almost, to play it. But neither of you or I have finished this game, which is kind of funny because I think previously when we've done game reviews, I feel like both of us have usually finished a game, right? Like with Jedi Survivor, I think did you had finished it by the time we talked about
it? I'd finished it by the time we did the podcast.
Yeah, this game is different. It's like it's pretty big in scale, I would say, and I think that's one of the main reasons why we're having this initial chat and you know, giving it another shot down the road to not only finish the story but also just to kind of give our full impression after Ubisoft has had a chance to maybe fix a few things and change a few things up, and we can get into those things in just a little bit. But first off, just want to kick things off for our audience with just a little piece of news. Kyle started up a new Sabers company called Kai Sabers. And you can check out the link in the description below. You can find him on Twitter and Instagram with the handle @KaiSabers. So he's set up shop already, new site and everything like that. So maybe check that out. Also, friend of mine who has a sticker business. You can get a Star Wars Escape Pod Decal for free if you put in the promo code, also in the description down below, for anyone who likes stickers. And so I think one more thing is this is a game which was released on PC, Xbox, and PlayStation. So 3 main, gaming communities there. And you, Dan, have played on PlayStation. Is that right?
That's correct, on the PlayStation 5.
All right, so we got PlayStation 5 perspective here, as well as myself, which played on the PC. So, as far as like maybe little pluses and minuses about the game, we can talk about those depending on the platform, which maybe somebody listening might be intrigued to hear about. So sorry, Xbox is not covered today, but normally Kirk would hit that, but he's not with us this evening. So let's talk about a little bit about the continuity of this game, the story, and then we can kind of get into the nitty gritty. So for the Star Wars fans out there who care, Star Wars Outlaws features extensive references to other Star Wars media, as a lot of stories do, ranging from canon novels such as Aftermath, the trilogy written by Chuck Wendig way back when the Disney canon kind of first kicked off, and movies of the sequel trilogy, to area names only used in some of the early West End RPG games and products, which come from like the 90s and something like that, as well as obscure sources such as things from the Legends continuity. So a lot of things that older fans might recognize. Outlaws is set also to take place concurrently to the more recent Star Wars Crimson Reign comic miniseries. So it's very niche throwing that in there as well, but has a lot to do with the Crimson Dawn side of the story, and also features a number of characters and elements from some of the comics and novels relating to Crimson Dawn. So fans of Kira, fans of Crimson Dawn, that storyline, War of the Bounty Hunters, all that stuff, if any of that rings a bell to anyone out there, this game takes place between episodes 5 and 6, right in that little year's worth of time there. And there's some nice Easter eggs that are dropped in the game I found so far, which kind of pay tribute to that. So before we kind of dive right in here, for anyone who wants to know a bit about the story, I took the entire story kind of summary and piped it into an AI and said, write me a plot summary about this. And so this is what I got back. When a daring heist goes wrong, Kay Vess, a young woman desperate to escape her past, finds herself with a death mark on her head and a broken spaceship. Forced to take on dangerous jobs for ruthless syndicates, Kay must navigate a galaxy of treachery and betrayal to survive. With a ragtag crew of outlaws and rebels by her side, she'll face a powerful criminal mastermind, a vengeful Sith Lord, and ultimately the truth about her own family. But in a galaxy where trust is a liability, Kay must decide who to believe and what she's willing to fight for. So that was a nice little kind of hopefully spoiler-free thing there, but yeah. So let's get into it. Dan, where are you at in the game? How'd you like to start? The story. What's your initial impression so far? Mike, is yours.
I'm not super far in the game. I'm on the first road you start out as kind of like a tutorial road, and then I'm on the next road after that where you start exploring and you start picking up quests and missions. And so I'm pretty much maybe 75% done with that world. I could go on to the next road if I want to, but with these type of RPG open road games, I like to do all the quests before I move on to the next location. So I'm kind of taking my time with it.
Right.
Part of the reason is like when I first started the game, it was really interesting and cool. And then it kind of cooled off for me for a bit. And then I was kind of struggling getting back into playing it. It just wasn't exciting to me. And another game had come out at the time that I was more into playing. But the more I've played it now, the more I've figured out like, okay, this is what kind of game this is. Then I'm actually enjoying playing it and like having fun doing the missions, where at first it was kind of like, I'm like, oh, this is so different than Jedi Survivor. I'm not really sure that this is one I want to go all the way through. But now that I figured out like past some of the quirks, which I'm sure we'll discuss, like the stealth missions.
Right. Yeah. So I'm a bit further ahead. I'm on probably the third planet. It's interesting. At some point in the game, you do get the option to choose where you go next, and it gives you an option of two choices, and I think it's two choices, or maybe it gives you three, and you can kind of there's a recommended one that you kind of go to first if you want to follow sort of the game's outlined recommended steps of going through the story kind of thing. But it is very it's interesting, right? Because like it is a role-playing game, action adventure, very different than the Jedi series, which was a bit more Prince of Persia style, like puzzle element to the levels. This one is a super open world, and I think one of the main complaints out there right now is that I guess to some people it just feels a little empty at times. And, there's some times where I definitely could agree with that. Like if I'm cruising across a planet and, it feels very authentic, but at the same time, it's like you can start to see the repetitive patterns in some things. And especially in doing things like the unlocking mechanism with your data spike, whether it's to get into through doors or into lock chests and stuff like that. Apparently you can turn it off, but so far it's like I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't know. Are you a big fan of doing those, or like the pattern? You have to like click the button to the pattern of the beat.
The little mini games. Yeah, I'm okay with. I haven't turned them off, but like to me, it's a nice breakup of like some of the monotony.
Okay, yeah. So some of them are a little frustrating more than others, but yeah, I feel like one of the main complaints out there is like, okay, why is it like the same thing all the time? Hacking into computers. It's like a small game of what's that game? Mastermind. Yeah. I don't know. There's like little things like that, little mini games that you can play when you're doing small things, but it can get a little repetitive after the further you get into the game, because it's just the same thing. It never really changes. But
it's definitely like you notice like the building blocks they use. Like every vent that you go through to sneak into a place looks the same as like all the other ones, and
yeah.
You start seeing like the same puzzles being used over and over again. Like, oh, I got to open this door. There must be a generator nearby that I could shoot with my ion cannon to power it up to open that door, and
right,
little things like that.
And I think that's kind of where they, I don't know. I think that's where it shows the cracks in building such a massive, world like this. Like it's and don't get me wrong, it is an insanely impressive game so far. It like visually looks like amazing, and the environments are super cool, and it feels like you're playing in the Star Wars universe 100%. But I can see where some of the feedback is coming from, right? And we'll get into the stealth side of things just a bit, because I think that's the one thing that kind of irks me the most. But so far I've like enjoyed it enough to and I haven't really lost the motive to play. And I think you mentioned that another game came out and you were kind of pulled away from this one. And it's not the first time that I've like heard that somebody is like started playing it and then stopped because it's just got a little bland for them, a little repetitive, a little boring. But I don't know, like I guess like if you were to take a guess as to what it is that's in relation to, like, just anyone out there who's wondering like, hey, should I buy this game? Like, what would you say to that person?
I mean, it's a pretty cool game. Like, I don't hate it. It's just so far the story hasn't gripped me. Like, Jedi Survivor was really cool because you had this like, oh, there's this background. I want to know more about this universe. I want to know where this character's going. And so far with this, it's like, okay, you have 3 crime syndicates that you could earn reputation with. You're just stealing stuff. There's not really like a huge mystery or like storyline that so far as where I'm at in the game hasn't really gripped me. Like, oh, I must see where this goes. Like, but that might be part of because it's a heist game, and I'm not like, to me, heists aren't like the highest priority to me story wise.
Right, that's fair. Yeah. Yeah. So let's see here. There's a note that Outlaws, the Outlaws team put out on social media, which I'll read off here. And this was shortly after the game came out, or maybe just less than a month, I guess, maybe a few weeks. September 25th, 8:59 a.m. September 25th, 2024. You've been roaming the Outer Rim for almost a month now, and we want to thank you again for your support. Your feedback is invaluable in helping us prioritize the improvements and changes we will make to the game. We're hard at work crafting multiple title updates, which will bring optimization, gameplay, polishing, and tweaks, as well as quality of life changes, including adjustments to combat and stealth gameplay. That's not all. Our very first story pack, Star Wars Outlaws Wildcard, will also launch on November 21st. We will see Kay and Nyx infiltrate a high-stakes sabacc tournament where they will face off against the legendary Lando Calrissian. In addition, new contracts will be added free for all players. For our PC players, we're also thrilled to announce that the game will be available on Steam starting November 21st. I'm a little irked about that. Thank you for being part of the journey, and stay tuned for more updates soon. The Star Wars Outlaws team. So for anyone else on PC that wanted to play it, basically day one, we had to buy it through the through Epic Games / through the Ubisoft store, and then download Ubisoft Connect and play it. It's a bunch of hoops to jump through. It's a bit like the EA stuff before they decided to bring their games over to Steam and call it Defeat. I'm not a huge fan of the fact that I had to buy it on another store. And quite frankly, I like all my stuff in the same place. And it's like, okay, like, I guess they just wanted to milk as much as possible without paying that Valve percentage for their store fee. But it kind of bothers me that it's only like maybe 3 months after the game's release and they're already going to Steam.
I would be so bothered by that. That's annoying.
I'm kind of bummed that I just didn't wait, like I'm like maybe I should have just waited. But like at the same time, like I didn't know it was gonna be like that, right? Like, like with EA it took years. So I was pretty sure that wasn't gonna go to Steam that quickly, but whatever.
I feel like they should give people a voucher if they bought it through the Ubisoft store, like they can get the Steam version.
Yeah.
For like at least a discounted price or something and carry over their save games. And
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, I don't know what
like $5 more, you can get the Steam version.
Right. Something like, it's like, here, pay the difference and get on Steam. And I don't know. Yeah, it is what it is. But okay, so let's talk about the stealth gameplay, because one of the biggest gameplay aspects about this game, one of the biggest things that's receiving a lot of flack, is actually in relation to the stealth. And this game be a smuggler, you are playing as a smuggler, you're playing as a smuggler, pilot, scoundrel kind of character. And stealth is a big tool in the toolbox when it comes to how this character navigates the galaxy and does some of her heisting and sneaking into places and stuff like that. Very different from the Jedi series, where there pretty much is no stealth. Like there is maybe to a certain extent, but you're pretty much just kind of headstrong, strolling in somewhere with your lightsaber swinging around. And I think something feels really good about that, because people really like the Force Unleashed games for that aspect. There's like no stealth in those games. And this game is very much the opposite. You're trying to sneak into places at times and hide from AI NPC characters and whatever else. And it's like, if that stuff ever gets a little buggy, it can be terrible. It can be a terrible experience. Like straight up, there was this one level that I was in. I was on a space station, and you rely on this character, which it's a little creature that crawls around with you by the name of Nyx, and you rely on Nyx a lot to do certain things when it comes to successfully stealthing your way through a room, whether that's sending him off to distract a stormtrooper, or steal something off a shelf, or open a door for you, or release a ladder, or whatever. Like it is, you basically, the game is kind of constructed around this idea that you can sometimes not do anything unless Nyx is kind of there to do it for you, right? And there was this one...
I actually really like that aspect of it.
Yeah, and it's a cool dynamic until it bugs out. And I got to this one part of this one level which just like pissed me off so much. Like I was so mad because Nyx wouldn't do anything. Like I told him to do this, told him to do that. He would just sit there and do nothing. And I was like, man, like what is up? Like this must be some sort of like nasty bug or something like that. But anyway, he just felt like the laziest, friggin' creature. So I just like, okay, screw this. So I just started, repeatedly playing that part of the level, just without stealthing. I was just running around, killing as many people as possible and trying to duck and roll and, successfully ended up getting through it. But, oh, that irked me so much. I was like, oh man, like, okay, like I can see where the flaws are in making a game, which kind of gives you the option of like, hey, this one might be better to use stealth, but then something breaks so that's not a good way to do it. And then all of a sudden you're faced with like the much significantly harder way of doing things, right? And
that's the problem with it. Like,
yeah,
like it's very like it. The stealth missions are fun until things go wrong, and then it's very punishing. Like if you alert them, then it's very hard to get out of it. You can go and hide and wait for the alert to die down, but then that takes a while. If you get killed, you pretty much have to start the whole mission all over. And if you're pretty far, and like what annoyed me is like I'll sit there and use stealth, collect all these things, get like a ton of stuff. I was deactivating alarms with Nyx. Like it was fun. And then like one little guy would see you. Sometimes you don't even see them. It'll be like somebody up high and you just missed them, or a camera will see you. And then suddenly all hell breaks loose. And then if you get killed, you go back. Like sometimes like you lose an hour of gameplay, like because there's no saves in the middle of those missions. So it's like frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. It's very frustrating. Yeah. So in correlation with the timing of us recording this podcast episode, ironically enough, October 2nd, which was yesterday, they released a patch for Star Wars Outlaws, which is Title Update 2. So it's a fairly larger patch. And these are the notable changes. It's a quick list. I'll just read through them. They tweaked the overall stealth experience by adjusting AI detection and the number of NPCs and their positioning, patrol pathing, camera detection, and highlighting environmental opportunities to reduce player friction. Okay, so that's like the number one thing that they've just changed as of yesterday. They've fixed an issue where players would get stuck in the hyperjump sequence towards Kijimi. I didn't know that was a thing. They fixed an issue where the takeoff button prompt wouldn't be shown after the wreck mission. They fixed or improved the position of the speeder camera when the FOV was increased, improved the speeder's response and reaction when called, improved speeder collision with the environment to reduce being knocked off the speeder. Caro's speakeasy fixed an issue where the energy barrier was not disabled after successfully slicing the panel on Mirogana. And they fixed an issue where the players could not interact with the triangulation stone in Jet Cordo's quest line on Toshara, and where the holo tracker would not spawn in the Trailblazer. There is, among those other things, performance and stability. Things have been fixed for FPS drops with Intel Arc GPUs, added VRAM impact to RTX DI usage, improved stability and performance across all platforms. And then they've got a giant list of things for like everything. For general gameplay, like they've improved animation of K's movements, scaled AI reactions for environmental actions and grenades and things like that. Like literally, like I'm just looking at the list, like there is so many improvements that they literally just made, like as of yesterday, or published as of yesterday. Like they improved the sniper rifle sensitivity, just like so much stuff. Like, you gotta see this list to really, get an idea for just how big this update was. And, UI and HUD setting changes to the graphics, audio settings, audio adjustments, cinematics, camera adjustments, improvements to K's hair animations, to the sabak tables, the photo mode, accessibility settings, miscellaneous. And then they've got changes per planet as well, which there is 5 different locations that you can go to in the game, being Cantonica, where you start off K's homeworld, which is Canto Bight, seen in The Last Jedi. Then there is Toshara, which is like a savanna-like moon, home to the Pike Syndicate in the game. There is Tatooine, no other description needed. Akiva, which is like a jungle world, and then Kijimi, which is a bit of like a frozen style city as seen in The Rise of Skywalker. And I believe Akiva is actually where we see the Resistance in Episode 9 hiding out in Akiva. But yeah, so those are the 5 different locations and so many fixes across the board. We're gonna have to like play more of this game and then revisit this subject later. But as far as like the stealth kind of issues go, like with Nick's problems aside that I faced, like I found a lot of the time the stealth just to be kind of buggy. Like sometimes the stormtroopers or whoever's looking for you just will not see you and they walk right by. Other times they'll spot you from a mile away, and it really depends on like where you are and who you're dealing with, and there's really not a lot of consistency with just how that stuff plays out. And I don't know, I'm less of a stealth guy for this game, because here's a game that did stealth incredibly well, was the Batman series. If anyone's played Batman Arkham City or Arkham Knight, like, oh my goodness, like you will never play another game. Yeah, you will never play another game with a stealth like mechanic and have it be any better. Like these games are the best for the stealth. Like I think they even supersede the Spider-Man games when it comes to like stealth and combat, and like it is incredible how they've managed to dial that in. And Spider-Man gets really close, but I think Batman kind of just beats it out. But yeah, like that's kind of what I was hoping for when it came to the level of quality and you just fine tuning to how that plays out on the game when you have to do it. And I feel like it was just very unrefined for this game, like to launch with, the mechanic and how much of it is a core part of the gameplay. Was really quite shocking to see the state of it, when the game launched. And that's kind of unfortunate. They've really damaged the reputation of the company, I think, with this game. And since then, they've actually pushed the release date of Assassin's Creed Shadows until next year because of the response for this game so far. So,
for a game that relies so heavily on stealth, like they're missing certain aspects of that. Like with Batman and Spider-Man, you could rappel to the ceiling, so it's easier to hide.
Right.
Even other games like Horizon Dawn and stuff, like you can't even like climb over like obstacles, like jump over tables or hide underneath stuff. Like it's always either behind something or you can go into these vents, but like there's not a lot of like options available to you. And even like if you're carrying a weapon, like you have your own blaster, but you can also pick up weapons from the enemies. And if you ever go up a ledge or up a ladder or into a vent, you drop that gun. You can't carry it in your inventory. So any weapons you pick up, you drop it immediately when you do any kind of like extra activity.
Right. That's a good thing to point out. Yeah, it's very limiting. And, there's no smoke bombs, nothing. Like it gives you, once you're caught, it gives you almost no chance of getting away. Right. And there is one ability that you can kind of slowly upgrade over the course of the game, which allows you to fast talk your way out of a situation. It really doesn't work at all. Like it kind of gives you a little bit more time, and it gives you a half second to then push a button, which then you gun that person down. But then everyone else still is alerted to your presence already. And if it's a game that
I haven't been able to get that to work for me.
Yeah, so exactly, right? And on top of that, sometimes there's a level or two or maybe 10 across the whole game where it forces you not to get caught. Like, and if you're caught, it's not a matter of can you gun these people down and get away in time. It's you just restart the level. So, those times I think it's extra frustrating because then it's like, well, I have this ability, which lets me fast talk my way out of a situation, but you're kind of forcing the game's will of like, oh no, we're just going to catch you. And a lot of the time when you're caught in a situation in which you're behind enemy lines and trying to stay hidden kind of thing, sometimes they toss you out and you lose reputation with that syndicate or that group of people, and then it affects the whole rest of your gameplay because now it's auto saved. Now you're damaging your reputation with the pikes or the huts or whatever. And now all of a sudden, if you've reached a new low with your reputation, you can't buy from certain like shops, or you can't go into certain territory without running into an issue or them kicking you out again and then losing more reputation because you trespassed, right? Like it's kind of an endless spiral of like, if it doesn't work well the first time, then all these other things just don't really work. So I think that's kind of one of the biggest issues that I've got with the game so far is the stealth really bothers me a lot, that it hinders so much on the success of being stealth. And when it's not dialed into perfection, it just kind of screws you up a little bit as a player, right? And it's like, I don't want to trip over that kind of stuff. So, and there is a difficulty setting for the stealth of the AI. I think I've just got mine set to normal, but I really should just dial it down to easy so that it's not an issue going forward, because like, I feel like normal is like, I like the challenge, I'm not complaining about the challenge, but it's like, you can tell when it's a difference of being buggy and being, like difficult, right? And in this sense, like, yeah, everything from your getaway options to, dropping things like a gun every time you jump over or climb up a ladder or whatever, it's like, okay. And now I think we're just being limited as far as our actual game options goes, like inside the game. It's like, I kind of wish for an open world game like this that you would have a little more flexibility with your inventory and things you can carry and stuff like that, right?
Even if they added like a save point like halfway through the stealth mission, then like, okay, I don't have to start all over. Like once you hit a certain look, like if you get halfway through the building or the map, like little checkpoint would be nice.
Yeah, I totally. Because I think it was like the first couple stealth missions that I did, I would really take my time. Like I was really trying to like, play up the part of the stealth person, right? And then when those terrible situations happen where you're caught or some bug happens that you just inevitably get caught, or you get caught because of the limiting possibilities at your disposal, then you have to reset, and it's like, dang, like you just spent like 10-20 minutes on the game so far, and now you have to redo it all over again. Like it's a little frustrating, to say the least.
And it makes you not want to try new things. Like you're afraid to try anything. You're like, if I get caught, then I'm going to have to start all over. Like, so you're not going to like, oh, I wonder if I like try to go through this door, are they going to see me? Like,
yeah, exactly. And then you're trying to just speed rush the game at some point because like, I've seen all this, I just want to get through it, right? So I think that's definitely a big downside to kind of how they've constructed some of the parts of the game. But all the pieces are there though for this game to be really fantastic, and again, visually it looks amazing. Like so far,
there's some beautiful moments in the game.
Oh yeah, for sure. Maybe
like you're just on a cliffside and you're looking at this huge vista, and you're like,
oh totally,
wow, that looks really cool, and it's just like,
yeah, like the scenic kind of elements of traversing the world, and yeah, like you fully believe that you can pretty much go anywhere and do anything at times. It like looks like it's endless, and that there's no limits to your borders, kind of thing as a player. So that's very cool, and I love that they launched the game with a photo mode. Like, I mean, Hogwarts Legacy launched without a photo mode, and people were asking for it for like half a year by the time they finally got it. I think a year later, but it was it's kind of nice of them to think of the fans, like, by putting in a photo mode, because they're like, yeah, like this is like such a beautiful looking game. Like, people want to take their screenshots and set their wallpaper and whatever else. But so that was kind of cool. But I mean, so far though, I think my initial impressions of the game have been fairly like, despite all my complaints with the stealth aspect of the game, like I've been fairly happy with it. I've been enjoying playing it. But there is something about the story which is still, even at my point in the game, I think it's just due to the open world nature of not having your character pulled along the main story as frequently and as consistently all the time, that you have all these options to do that it kind of lets you do your thing and it doesn't rush you all that much. So for an open world game, like I think that's what sort of takes away from the urgency of the main plot. And I think that's where Jedi really stands out, is you're playing like a very cinematic story, and because of that, they've put a lot more effort and time into maybe constructing that story and making it very interesting to kind of see. And they have a history now with the first two games really exploring this like rich history and rich past of these different civilizations, right? The first one being like very much based on this ancient alien race that's no longer, in the galaxy, and you're exploring old, like, you're basically tomb raiding as a Jedi Padawan, which is super sick. And then the second game, like, you're exploring the days of the High Republic, in all these flashbacks, and then you're fighting the villain who is once a protagonist from that time period. Like it's really cool. Like it's very, you get really invested in that story and that lore. And as a character, Cal Kestis, like he is kind of a lore guy, right? Like by touching certain objects, you're uncovering pieces of a greater story, and it sort of continuously keeps you invested in that story. Whereas in this game, it's very different. Like I think the only thing I can kind of compare the psychometry force effect that Cal has with touching objects and uncovering pieces of story is Kay's ability to pick up a data pad and basically just read the text, except it normally doesn't have anything to do with the main story. It's usually just like small Easter eggs or like small things that have to do with the surrounding environment, and doesn't necessarily, like, you could go through the whole game without reading a single data pad and you'd probably be fine, unless it's like a data pad that you have to read. But you don't really need to read any of them to unlock anything or get further in the story or anything like that. Like it's really just kind of there for you to do if you want to. So I don't know, in some ways it feels like they're struggling with the balance of like free roaming the galaxy on your own and doing your own thing while also trying to keep you invested in the story and the plot, right? I think there's a tricky balance there. What do you think of sort of the open world aspect so far? Like, other than just how great it looks, like what's your opinion on interaction with the NPCs, interaction with, shopkeepers, stuff like that?
It's been cool because like you have your choice. Like there's a lot of optional missions, and then there's the main storyline mission. So you could just blast through and play just the main story missions and not really spend much time. But I like to do everything. So I've been like doing all these little side missions, and as you're traveling throughout the map, like question marks will show up and like, oh, I want to go see what's over there. And then I'll unlock a new chain of missions. And you have a speeder bike, which is pretty fast to get you around. It's also comical. Like you can summon it at any time. And there's times like I've summoned it and they'll like just like show up on top of a table, or it'll like run people over as it's coming to me. And you get like little, I guess it's kind of like Red Dead Redemption, where like you can summon your horse, like, but you have the speeder bike that you can somewhat customize, but you can't do any combat while you're driving it. You can't fight anybody else. You're just using it to escape or like to get from location to location.
Yeah. Have you had any problems with your speeder so far? Any complaints there?
Just, sometimes you're going up full speed and then like you'll hit like a rock and then suddenly you'll just get flung off of it, and it's like
yeah.
And then there's like sometimes you can jump off cliffs and like huge cliffs and you'll survive, be fine, and other times you jump off this little hill, then you'll like die. So it's like little things like that. But
yeah.
And then sometimes you do notice like, oh, this gas station looks just like the other 5 gas stations that I went past. Like you see a little bit of repeat, like in some of the buildings and stuff. But overall, it's a big. At least the 2 planets I've been to, they've been pretty big, but not like annoyingly big. So there's a lot to do and explore.
Yeah. Generally,
you said people complain about them feeling empty, but to me it hasn't really bothered me, because there's like you'll see herds of creatures like in between like the different towns and stuff, and It's a pretty rural, like they're pretty environments and everything. So
yeah. I mean, I'd feel like that too. You know, I mean, in general, I think there's just complaints everywhere from different types of audiences across the board. But you know, I've never had any huge complaints about that kind of thing. Usually, I'm just kind of booking it from one thing to the next, and there's been, admittedly, a number of times that I've just fast traveled just because I don't have the patience to get on the speeder and ride like, you know, 2-3 minutes to the next location for whatever reason.
I use fast travel every chance I get, like,
Yeah.
unless it's a new location.
Yeah, exactly. I do wish that Nyx's sensibility was, here's another thing, just to, you know, I don't want to continuously go back to the stealth issues, but I wish that Nyx's stealth ability was like just better in every single way, because I feel like the Batman games, you have that sort of X-ray vision kind of, you know, weird thing that he does. And then there's Spider-Man with his like spider sensibility, which works very well. And then in this game, it's just like this, it's very slow to use. It's like this kind of bubble that kind of grows outwards from wherever Nyx is. And it kind of senses things around you, and you get like a small outline of different things, like boxes you can interact with, objects you can interact with or pick up, as well as any enemies and stuff like that. So yeah, I just wish that it was faster and that it just worked better and it had a
100%
bigger range on it. Like that would be nice. You know, like I just wish it was better in every single way. And I know it's, maybe some people might disagree, but like, I don't know, like you sound like you kind of know what I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah. And then even like you have those binoculars, but they're kind of useless. Like,
yeah, you can't use
Batman's
them all
X-ray
the
vision.
time.
I wish you could just pull out your binoculars and then like tag things on the map. So you're like, okay, that's where I need to go. Like there's the cameras there. Like, you know, it's,
yeah. And that's another thing. Like
they try, but it's not quite.
You. Yeah, it's like they try, but they're not quite nailing it. It's like the binoculars, like an amazing point. Like, you know, there's some times in the game where you just can't use them. Like literally, like it won't let you take them out of your bag, and it makes no sense. Like why not, right? Like you're sure it's really close range to whatever you're going to be looking at, but at the same time, it's like you want to maybe mark them out or something, right? And it just prevents you from doing that. And I think that's just really kind of weird. Yeah.
Are you playing on the keyboard and mouse, or are you using a controller?
Yeah, so I decided to play this game with a controller while playing on PC, and I feel like I did myself a favor by doing that, just with some of the things like I don't know, like when it comes to some things like like shooting and stuff, I kind of wish I was on keyboard and mouse. But then with things like piloting and driving my speeder, which I'm doing frequently, I don't really regret the decision to use a controller. Just I find like the mechanics of how they've done the speeder on keyboard and mouse kind of weird. So yeah, I think that's probably a preference for a lot of people would be to play on PC and then use a controller with that. You know, that being said, if anyone feels differently, you know, drop a comment because I would love to know why. But I got the Metacritic page up here, so let's just take a quick look. The meta score on this is generally favorable, sitting at a 75 points. I guess it's not a percentage; it's 75 points. User score out of 10 is 5.4, so that's like way down compared to the meta score. They got a score per platform here. Xbox is sitting at 75 out of 100. PS5 sitting at 75 out of 100, and PC is sitting at 76 out of 100. Although I would probably, I mean, like I thought, yeah, I think 7 or 8 is probably where I would put it too, out of 10. But I gotta say, like I'm playing on an RTX 4080, so like my experience should be pretty smooth. And anytime that I use the ray tracing in the settings and anytime I turn it on, there always seems to be some really terribly optimized feature about that, because I drop frames like crazy. Like, you know, goes sub 50, and sometimes there's like frame drops entirely, which doesn't show up on the FPS counter, but like I can definitely tell that it's happening. And I don't know if it's just my computer or if it's the game or what, but it's happened with other games before, like with RTX games specifically. And I don't know, it feels like they just got some optimizing to do. I know with Jedi Survivor, my game like crashed way more when I had RTX on. It just feels like they launch these games sometimes with RTX on there, and it's not very well, I don't know, it's not very well optimized or ready for perhaps certain setups. So that's just kind of the one thing I would throw out there, but it looks like it's 75 across the board for pretty much everybody. Some latest critic reviews are coming in between 70, 50. User reviews have ranged from everything from 0 all the way up to like 10. So it's kind of all over the place. Like it depends on what console or what platform people are playing on, what their experience has been like. It's kind of all over the place. You should look it up yourself and just see kind of what people are saying about it, because some of them are pretty mixed. The critic reviews are a bit more positive than the user reviews, sitting at 68% positive, whereas user reviews are 47% positive. It seems to be pretty split, 50-50, with 10% mixed in the middle. So yeah, I mean, it's a very divisive game right now. Like I feel like some people are going to hate it, some people are going to love it. I don't really know what my overall end opinion is as to whether or not somebody should buy this game or not. Like, the best advice I could probably give is if you're a super big Star Wars fan, you want an open world game to explore different planets, being a total of 4 or 5, and, just have fun in this time period between episode 5 and 6. And you have a lot of patience for dealing with certain stealth bugs, then go for it. Like, story's not super pulling, but at the same time, like, I don't know, it's interesting enough that I'm still playing it. So if that says anything, I mean, yeah, but maybe I'm just a sucker. Who knows? Okay, so there's a roadmap. Do you know what's coming down the roadmap, Dan? Getting the season pass?
Yeah, I bought the deluxe edition, so it's like, I know there's a special hut side mission, which I'm assuming, I think it's, you go to Jabba the Hutt's palace.
Yeah.
And then some other stuff, but yeah, I remember I quickly glanced at it when I was buying it, but I don't recall what was all on there.
So the immediate roadmap is Title Update 2, which is the one that we just talked about earlier. That's the big key focus on bug fixes and improvements. I think some small patches will probably follow up until October 24th, where Title Update 3 comes out. That'll be key focus on quality of life improvements. So I think maybe we could see an adjustment to things like the blaster issue, her dropping stuff all the time. Who knows? And then that goes until November 21st, where we see the Steam release of the game, as well as Story Pack 1, which is called Wildcard. That's the Lando Calrissian Story Pack, as well as more jobs just for players who have finished the game and continue to play as KVS in the open world aspect afterwards. Then there's going to be new contracts and things to do, just things to keep you busy in the world, or the worlds. As well as Title Update 4 comes out that same day, or that same week, I guess. Key focus on combat and stealth improvements, as well as just free additional contracts, and that's something I already mentioned. So there's a lot of stuff happening November 21st, and another huge update coming later this month. So, for anyone who's like kind of interested in the game and you don't really know just yet if you want to get it, maybe just hold out for another few weeks and just see how these updates turn out. And that might be the best way to go about it, because a lot of things are going to be fixed or changed. So yeah, let's see. So you said you got the deluxe edition, right?
Yeah, and I got it on the PS5, which has some good and some positives and negatives. Like, so one of the cool things I noticed is like on your controller, when you set off a security alert, like you get security alerts through the controller, like the announcements, like we're looking for this prisoner, and it comes through the controller. So that part was really cool.
That was neat.
It makes it feel like, oh, you're more immersive. And then, but the negative is because I'm not sitting in front of a monitor, like some of the icons at the bottom of the screen are very small and you can't resize them. You can resize the text, but you can't resize the HUD. So I'm sitting on my couch across from my TV, and like I had to, like, when I first started playing it, and I had to like get up and get closer to the TV to see like what the icons were, because they tell you like what the buttons do on your controller, like to summon certain things, to get into your backpack and whatnot. And so until I had that memorized, I was giving me issues. Whereas if you're on a PC, you're right in front of your monitor, so you can see everything pretty close.
Right. Oh, interesting. That's cool that it turns your controller into like a, I don't know, like a comm link, like you're like listening in on the Imperial frequency or something. Like that's really cool.
And then people, when they communicate with you, like they send, like it comes out of your controller, like, you know, when you get like little mission updates from somebody else that's in the mission. So that part's cool.
Yeah. Oh, that's really neat. Yeah.
And then obviously I don't have to worry about like my graphics, like I don't have to worry about it. Drivers and everything that you have to worry about on the PC.
Yeah, I would say like there's really no benefit to playing on the PC really, other than being, you know, you're close up and personal with like I play on an ultra wide, super ultra wide monitor, so it's very immersive for a PC game. But at the same time, like yeah, I've had no problem reading legibility on things. But because I'm using a controller, I'm getting a very similar experience when it comes to, you know, just someone playing on an Xbox maybe. I you know, there's no speaker on my controller, so like obviously I don't get that kind of experience, but I do hear it, you know, on the audio. All the same stuff is just coming through with the rest of the game audio. Yeah, I mean, like I don't know. There's really not a whole lot of benefit to that. It does support the super wide the super ultra wide formatting, you know, from a monitor. So, you know, it does create a nice like wide image, which I wouldn't get maybe on my TV. But yeah, like I don't know. I wouldn't say there's any like upside to it. The unlocked frame rate is nice. I don't know. Like, is your frame rate capped on the console version?
I think so. Like I don't remember having the options to. Oh wait, I think there is the option to adjust the graph to whether you have like better graphics or better frame rate. I have it set to the better graphics.
Okay, so you're probably.
But I never noticed like really frame droppage or anything.
Okay, so you're probably running at like 30 frames, maybe 30 frames a second, maybe 40.
I think 40.
Something like that. Yeah, I'm just taking a guess, but yeah, okay. Yeah, so like I find, at least when I don't have RTX graphics turned on, and you know my like it's tricky for me to compare with other people playing on PC because my monitor is so demanding. It's very like graphically very graphically demanding. So like the settings that I have on a different computer would maybe go a bit further. Because it would be on maybe a 24-inch, you know, QHD monitor, which isn't basically the width of two entire, you know, Ultra HD monitors put together into one. But I do play on like ultra graphics, and I toggle the RTX kind of on and off depending on when I'm hitting a buggy patch or not. But yeah, I mean, it is nice to get. Yeah, I'm usually hitting about 50, 60 FPS, and you know, if I went down in my settings, I could definitely like increase that. So the smoothness of the game is always quite nice, especially when you're sitting very close to it. But I wouldn't call it like a game-changing aspect, right? Like, I mean, you know, people play on what they're comfortable with, and you know, I think like one of the greatest things about playing on a PlayStation was definitely the controller. I think that's a huge selling factor for a lot of games. So that's really cool to see that they've like utilized the built-in speaker into the controllers. Have they done things like if you get on your speeder, does the sensitivity of the trigger get like adjusted or anything like that?
Not that I noticed. Yeah, I don't think it's using like the haptic triggers. Like,
okay. So they could probably do more work then when it
for
comes to that
anything
kind of
special.
stuff. Maybe that'll be.
And I'm trying to remember.
Quality of life update might change.
I think there is the force feedback, like the rumbling and stuff. But yeah, I don't think they're doing any of the haptic stuff.
Okay, gotcha. So for anyone who did buy the season pass, we already talked about Story Pack 1 coming out in November with the Star Wars Outlaws wildcard, but Story Pack 2 comes out next year in spring. I don't know when that'll be. Like, I mean, if I were to take a guess, it would probably be maybe early March or late February. Just, they probably do want to target those first 6 months with the game's release. And that one's called A Pirate's Fortune. And I believe that is maybe the one that... Oh, no, that's not the same one. Okay, I don't think they've revealed anything about that one yet. I was going to say maybe that's the one that Hondo's in, but no, that's actually... Oh, no, maybe that is the one. I don't know, whatever. There's two. Hondo's going to show up, and Lando's going to show up. So that's kind of exciting. Let me think. Is there anything that we might need to go over before we wrap things up? I do have a small behind-the-scenes thing to read out, but I can't think of anything else.
No, I think we covered all the basics until we get further along in the game and see how more of the story
Okay, cool.
comes together.
I'll read this out here, and then we can wrap things up. So a team of approximately 600 developers from 11 Ubisoft studios, including Massive, participated in the development of Star Wars Outlaws. It was led by creative director Julian Garridy, I think, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, known for his work on Tom Clancy's The Division from 2016 and its 2019 sequel, along with game director Matthias Carlson. They were joined by narrative director Navid Kavari, whose previous projects included Far Cry 5 from 2018, as well as Far Cry 6 from 2021. The lead writer, Nikki Foy, known for Watch Dogs Legion from 2020, and all the DLC content for Far Cry 6. Lucasfilm Games provided additional support, obviously. So that's just kind of a small, quick credits and maybe some notable people involved. With the gameplay of how this goes down, I've heard it compared to many other Ubisoft games that they've done already. So, any big fans of Assassin's Creed will probably feel very much at home with a game like this. But we have yet to see more from Star Wars Outlaws, and I think we'll be covering a little bit more into the future as some of these bigger updates come out, and the gameplay might change a little bit, or in maybe in a lot of ways it'll change, and change our stealth, and waiting for that quality of life update. That sounds pretty appealing as well. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I think long after the main story is done, we're going to be still in a galaxy far, far away playing as Kay Vess in some of these little contracts here and there that you can keep busy with even after the main story has had its fill. So real quick, Dan, what is your Pablo points and poodoos on this game so far? We'll call it temporary.
Let's see. Well, I agree with the ratings of like a 7 out of 10. So I would say like maybe 1.5 Pablo.
1.5 Pablo. Okay, so that's pretty, bit better than good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd agree with that. I think 1.5, maybe even 1 or 1.5, something in there. I feel like this game does need a little bit more work, but at least it's not as broken as some games when they come out, right?
That's true. It could be worse.
Yeah, it could be worse. All right, thanks for joining, Dan, and we'll catch you in the next one.
Thank you.
All right, big thank you to our audience for tuning in this week. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube, leave a comment, answer the poll down below on Spotify. You can find us with the handle at SW Escape Podcast. May the Force be with you.